Is your nervous system making you sick? In short, no. It's keeping you safe. It's keeping us safe. It's keeping me safe. We may present symptoms of sickness or unwellness, but in truth, most of the time our body is actually, we're getting well, we're not getting sick. But with the nervous system, from birth to childhood to adolescent, teenage years, into adulthood and beyond, what we're doing is we're gathering up information, through sight, through sound, through touch, through memory, through thought, experience, perspective. And all these thoughts and sensations get gathered and stored in the body, just like one big computer. And the nervous system sifts through all that and works in the background. It's called the autonomic nervous system, and it's made up of two parts: the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. Now, it works just in the background, and it's really there, it's keeping us safe. That's what it's doing. It's regulating our breathing, our blood flow, it's sending signals to the brain, which sends it to the body, and sends signals from the body to the brain. And it's just doing its thing. But from an early age, there's certain things that might be fearful, that might scare us. The shouting of a parent, maybe, or an experience as a child having to go to school. I know myself when I first went to school, I was absolutely terrified. I was crying and I ran out of there. And now my nervous system, this store, this is unsafe. And certain patterns began to emerge at school for me because it seemed like an unsafe place. Not all the time, but at times. So what it's doing is it's storing these in our body, and it's like cellular memory, so it's stored in the brain, muscle memory, it's stored in our body, and our emotions, which are linked to our thinking and vice versa, tell us stories about ourselves. It's where anxiety comes from. Anxiety is so misunderstood, so misunderstood. And what happens is, I have an experience, I feel anxious, my physiology changes, and my breathing changes. I'll give you an example. Somebody jumps out at you, like, yeah. Instantly there's tension, bracing myself. I'm scared, I'm frightened. The breathing pattern changes from a young age, being I'd like to believe I was a nose breather at one time, and but just shifting from nose to because we're breathing up into here, up into these the secondary respiratory system. These are accessory muscles, to recover from exertion and exercise. So exertion would be being scared, breathing up into the chest because it gets more air in. But it's stored. The nervous system remembers. If you think back to, if we came from caveman or Neanderthal man or wherever our history is, I don't know. But it was meant to be hunter gatherers at one time. So we were out hunting, the wildebeest, whatever it was. So we were switched on, activated, as hunter gatherer men or women, who knows, right? But as a hunter gatherer man, I was out there gathering, whether it be berries or catching meat or chasing the wildebeest or having to be aware, be aware of my surroundings. So I knew this is unsafe. If I whatever ran towards me, so I would remember. So it's a safety mechanism. It's keeping us well. It's keeping us alert to danger. But the thing is, with anxiety or any kind of stress disorder, a lot of mental health conditions, it's the repetition, the story being repeated, and it can be exaggerated because as humans we can tend to do that. Some will, We can minimize it and do that too, but it gets remembered and it gets stored. Now, if I'm not, which I hadn't a lot of my life, actually process these thought, emotions, sensations from the experience that is coming to me or the experience that I'm having through my own perception, it's going to affect my body if I'm not processing that properly. So the nervous system is there, to allow us to change and to adapt. But the modern world, and I use the modern world actually has us devolving a lot rather than evolving. Take it back to the wildebeest hunters, out and about, a lot of movement, the whole body being, breath, it was very tribal, probably scream, and you see a lot of that imitated today in certain practices and practices that I advocate for. Because what we're trying to do is get back to that primal sense so that we can release and move. The releasing part is so important. So if you imagine again, caught the wildebeest, chased the wildebeest, caught the wildebeest, you take it back to your community of people who you're sitting around the campfire or cave with, cut it, cook it, cut it, eat it. Right? By the time that we've sat down, made the fire, our nervous system actually goes and moves into the parasympathetic state. Rest, digest, recover, repair. Eat food, and this is all working because it's not switched on and activated. Now, if I just caught the wildebeest and then start eating it, it's going to go into my digestive system. We're going to be in this sympathetic state, which is fight, flight, or freeze. The body is not prepared. The body needs to be prepared. And it is where a lot of gut health problems are coming from. I suffer myself with abdominal problems, bloating in my gut, I had lower back pain, digestive problems, and saw all kinds of solutions. You might have heard me speak about it in another video. But what's happening is I was too activated, I was too switched on. My outer environments became overwhelming and unsafe. It was through the nature of the work I was doing, my attitude towards work, doing full-time gym, being in unhealthy relationships, fear around money, lots of different external and internal stimulus that was causing these problems. So the wildebeest hunting is a great example because they're out, movement, busy, breath, and then relax at night. The thing is, with the modern world, like here I am, I'm sitting, so I'm talking, so I have to breathe through my mouth. Optimal breathings through the nose. I've covered that in other videos. I'll do one of those. I'll put a link up here and add it. But even posture, the way, the way I'm sat, I try and sit up straight, but there was a time when I was hunched over in this area. This is in here is where the diaphragm sits like an umbrella. So if I'm squashed over, then it's not getting its proper range of motion. It's not getting to move. It's not getting to pump the blood through my body. It's not massaging these internal organs, which is great for the digestive system. Now, I went to see a top nutritionist, who was very helpful and very knowledgeable. I'm very grateful for her. We looked at elimination diets, poo samples, all kinds of things. But there was a few indicators, but we weren't looking at my nervous system. And when I looked at my nervous system through a functional and therapeutic breathwork practitioner, that's where my change began. That's where my problems started to subside. That is where I learned about my body and the importance of the nervous system and how it regulates and it keeps us functioning and supports us in wellness. But again, but it's automatic. So if my external world is difficult and challenging, then if my nervous system isn't able to cope with that, then it's going to put a stress and a strain on me, which it did. And I'm not processing properly. I'm not processing thoughts, emotions, food, nutrients, all the things that keep us ticking over and keep us healthy. So modern modern living actually has us devolving and makes us sicker. It leaves us open to these things happening. It puts strain and stress on the body. As I said, these sensations, thoughts, feelings don't get processed, and with that, they can build up. And the thing is, everybody experiences different symptoms to stress and strain. Now, for me, it was poor concentration, poor memory, lack of energy, poor sleep. Even though I was getting 6 to 8 hours, the quality of my sleep wasn't great. Affected my digestive system. I got like psoriasis, eczema kind of symptoms, in different places in my body, and at one point it just spread. Um, Dizziness, dizzy conditions. I got diagnosed with something called triple PD, persistent postural perceptual dizziness. It was kind of like a bit like vertigo, but it was all the time. It was awful, 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 awful. It lasted for nearly a year. Thankfully, all that symptoms have disappeared. I haven't disappeared. What's happened is I've taken care of my health, careful what I put into my body, whether it's food, air, what I expose myself to, uh, because all that stuff can leave me susceptible to illness. So the nervous system is there functioning in the background. So when I've not been processing stuff, there's like a tightness. A tightness can happen. Stress, strain. I can feel that uncomfortability in my shoulders, in my back, the lower back. There's tension because it's been stored. It's as if the body is preparing itself for something that is about to or might happen. And why wouldn't it? Because if that's what I've prepared it for and exposed it to, then that's what it's going to prepare itself for. It adjusts to our environment. So whatever I put my body and my mind and it's gonna adjust because it's there to keep us safe. It's also there to save energy. So I was on high alert a lot of the time, and there's the stresses and strains. I'll use this example. This is a wonderful, wonderful, at least I think it's a wonderful, wonderful example. If you think of when we're born as babies, if you lay a baby, on its belly, on its back, sorry, you'll see it breathing its belly, mostly nasal breathing, unless there's any difficulties from birth. But mostly it knows how to breathe. It's also flexible, very flexible. A baby, its arms and legs, it can put its leg, behind its head, right? But then as we grow up and grow older, that looseness, that playfulness tends to disappear. Why is that? Well, again, the nervous system is reacting to certain stimulus, whether it was when I went to nursery or when I went to school, or maybe the diet that I was eating, or whatever it may be, and I became less flexible. Now, throughout the years as an adult, that became even less and less. Apart from times when actually I was going to the gym, when I've been doing some form of yoga or stretching. But generally, things started to tighten up a bit. Now, this is the bit that got me. Now, I cannot put my leg behind my head. In fact, I could probably get it to about here. But if I was to go into hospital and be put under anaesthetic, a surgeon would be able to take my leg and go across the movement. There's mobility there, there's movement, because I'm under anaesthetic. This thought, mind, memory, emotion, nervous system led body isn't switched on. It's not able to sense the threat. So I can do the splits. And so if that is possible, and that it's my nervous system, muscle memory, thought, perception, emotions and feelings, which are affected by breathing, then it makes sense, and it's my experience, that if we change how we breathe, we can look at our perception of things, that we can start to heal in certain areas of our lives. We can have less tension because I'm not as switched on, I'm waiting for it. So the more I put my body into less stressful states, the more it will learn to relax. It becomes more familiar. And the opposite can also be said, because the more I put myself into these stressful situations, difficulty, then my body gets used to that. It's kind of like a barometer. But there was the time when I was stuck. I was overly switched on. I didn't know, or was experiencing too much rest, digest, recover, and repair. I was in fight, flight, freeze, but I was meditating. So I had to really look at my physiology. And that's what I teach. That's what I work with clients. I teach them about the physiology, about the biomechanics, and how our breath related body affects our nervous system, affects our thinking, our feelings and sensations in our body, but how one affects the other. There's no separation. There's no separation. Psychiatry deals with this. Physiotherapy deals with that. You know, I deal with both. And the transformation that's occurred in my life has been absolutely profound. As I mentioned, a lot of the symptoms, physical symptoms, dissipated and disappeared. I had I'll call it a psychic change, you know, the way my thinking changed, how I experienced things, my perception changed. So when I'm working with people, I relate my experience of that. I've got lived years and years of lived experience, both in difficulty and stress and burnout and overwhelm. But I've also got years and years and years in recovery. It's an absolute beautiful gift, and I've got my professional experience. You know, if you're interested, I'll put a link in the below, wherever you'll find it, and you can book in for a discovery call. And that's just for me, just to chat with you, and you can tell me about you. And if I think I'm able to help you, then we can extend the call. And that's the call to action. Then if you want to work with me, we'll look at that. So if you want, there'll be links and stuff below. But I look at breath work, meditation, and nervous system regulation, playfulness, movement, the things that we've forgotten, really, you know, because this modern world that we now live in, you know, has really affected us in a negative way a lot of the time, but in a great positive way. It's not like, oh, that's bad. It's about regulating and how we can use the breath to support us. So that's a little bit on the nervous system. Uh, as I like to say, breathe better, be better. And if you like this video, please like it, like it, or comment, or subscribe, and let's get the word out there of that recovery is possible, that change is possible, that optimal health and performance is literally just a breath away. Just need to be guided in the right way, and that's what I'm here to do. So thanks for listening. Another video will be coming out soon, and please follow, comment, like, subscribe.